things, but pretty much it.
Hey there, everybody. So you might be wondering why we're looking at a literal soccer mom's minivan instead of a Charger or something with a Hemi in it. You might be going, did you clickbait me with that thumbnail? Well, maybe a little bit. But hold on. I do want to talk about the reason that, especially the Mopar guys, I'm not really a Mopar guy, but the reason Mopar guys have the new Challengers and Chargers and uh, Hellcats and, all the stuff that they're running now is thanks to these things. Yeah. Or its predecessor. Dodge, well, Chrysler Corporation, I guess, back in the 80s was going through some times, and Lee Iacocca was at the helm at the time, and out came the K car. If you don't know what that is, there's lots of videos on that. The K car kind of helped bring about the revival of Chrysler. It was a small, economic, front-wheel drive vehicle, cheaply built, easy to manufacture. They pumped them out by the thousands, and they made all kinds of little variants of them. There was the Daytona, the Shelby. I mean, there was some pretty wild ones that were just basically a 2.2 K car, and that's basically how the first Dodge minivan got started. It was basically a K car platform, and yeah, this square, ugly little boxy thing saved Chrysler. And that's the reason today you have Hellcats and Chargers and Challengers and the Viper, Ram trucks even. Um, it's all because of this square, no frills, no real design or anything put into it. It's literally a utilitarian vehicle. It is a box on wheels meant to haul people. There's nothing cool about it. There's nothing sexy about it. But it is the reason for modern Mopar muscle today. You know, it's not as cool as the new ones aren't as cool to me as, say, an older Challenger, the original. Had some really good stuff back in 60s, early 70s, early 70s, mostly 60s, I guess. For me anyway, that's my favorite era, Mopar. And vans weren't all just utilitarian. Um, and yeah, they weren't cool, they weren't sexy, they weren't fancy. But then the 70s came along. In the 70s, people got creative with their vans, and they came out with some pretty cool stuff. And there was a lot of weird and strange and cool things being done in the 70s to vans, to just, yeah, like I say, a square box on wheels, and people made them cool. Put side pipes on them and Krager wheels and jacked it up in the back and big fancy mural of a half naked chick on the side, or a dragon, or there was a lot of crazy murals. Still is some. If you go to car shows, sometimes you'll still see some of those. Now, the Plymouth minivan wasn't necessarily the original minivan. I guess the VW microbus can kind of be the forefather to that. It wasn't a what you would call a full size van. Uh, Dodge had the D100 in the early 60s, like 60, 61. Chevrolet had the Corvair van. Ford also had. Well, I'm trying to think of early Ford vans, and I do believe they did have some smaller ones. I'd have to do a little bit more research on that. I'm not a van expert. Uh, but yeah, the minivan. Which brings me what I'm doing today. Now, if you've watched this far and you like what you see, I appreciate it. Give a guy a like, click the subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a nice comment. It costs nothing to be nice, okay? And yes, I know my bright white chicken legs are just itching to be made fun of, but we haven't had shorts weather. We are going to be doing wheel bearings in the van. They are making an awful lot of noise. And if you want to stick through and watch some of this, maybe this is something you don't know how to do and you want to learn how to do it for yourself, or um, you just want to laugh at me make a fool out of myself trying to do it. That's fine. I don't care. Watch the video. Like I said, leave a comment. Just make sure it's nice. I have zero time for keyboard warriors. Okay, I'm not gonna waste a single click on a keyboard warrior. So be nice. Come on. Especially in more people need to start being a little bit nicer. Forget about politics and all that other garbage. Back to wrenching on stuff. Doing it yourself. Getting your hands dirty. Busting up your knuckles. You know what I mean? So on that note, I'll probably time lapse a bunch of this. And, I'm not going to bore you with the little details, but in the meantime, we'll get to it. So everything in the new shop isn't quite organized yet, and of course I can't find any of my big pry bars, so I'll be back. Okay, so got the caliper off and taking a look at these brake pads. They didn't come apart very nice. The metal backing on this pad just kind of fell off. And it's pretty clear that that pad, she gone, she junk. And the pad for the other side is almost there too. So, gonna need brake pads, and I know the rear is actually making noise on this too. So, since this is Soccer Mom's van, and it's my nieces and nephews and my sister-in-law and my brother, it's all gonna have to be right, and it's gonna need to stop like it's supposed to. Be safe. So, on that note, we're gonna have to order some more parts. But on with the show. Next is the caliper bracket. We're going to make sure we don't lose these little metal clips that go onto the caliper bracket, because that's what the brake pads slide on, is that metal bracket. Maybe the new pads will come with them. If they do, then we'll swap them out. Otherwise, make sure that those are on there, because that is what ensures that those brake pads move evenly in and out without friction or hindrance of any kind. The rotors, they still, well, this rotor at least still looks like it's in fantastic shape. Doesn't need to be replaced or turned or anything. Ooh, I might have to take that back. Might take them in and just get them turned, because the backside is not looking the greatest, but it's not anything that I don't think can be, looks like it's just surface, some little bit of surface rust where the pads weren't. And get that cleaned up so that works correctly. Yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, caliper bracket, pop that off, straighten the wheel back out, pull this big nut off of the CV. This is the CV half shaft, and the wheel bearing, there's actually a couple bolts holding that in, and I have what's called a hub cracker that hopefully will be able to bolt onto this bolt pattern, and I can just knock it out, because I don't know if you've never done these before. The wheel bearing, it's technically the wheel hub assembly. It sits in the spindle in here, and it's a real tight fit. It's not just bolted. You can't just undo the bolts and take it off. It's like pressed in there, good and tight. And they are a bear to get out of there sometimes, especially when they're rusty and got lots of miles on them. Yeah, they can be a real good time. So anyway, like I said, moving on. Okay, so the reason I'm playing with this pad in the caliper bracket right now is because I'm looking to see how these fit in here, because like many of you, I've never actually taken this apart before, or one of these vans apart before, but it's all pretty much the same concept. What I'm doing here is I'm looking at these clips and how this goes in, because I've never seen clips in this particular style. Whereas it rides, you can see on this one, that's where the pad rides on the caliper bracket, but it also has this little tab here. Now on a GM it doesn't have that. You just pop these in and it slides on the metal. But apparently with this Dodge they have that little springy tab there, and apparently that's to help kind of push that pad back the other way. Now one thing I'm noticing right away with this was how hard it was to pop this back into where it's supposed to be, and how hard it is to slide this back and forth in there. And it should not be like that. That pad should slide fairly easily in and out of there. Not nearly as hard as it is right now. So when we put this back together, we'll use a little bit of lube, a little bit of grease where these ride, and we'll make sure if the new pads don't come with new clips, we'll clean these up really good so everything works just as it should and keeps my family safe. All right, well, we had a little bit of technical difficulty there. But we're back on track. The rotor. Here, I'll grab that and show you guys real quick here. And I hope the audio is okay. I'm testing out some new equipment. If you see this rotor, oh yeah, there we go. See, that's the back side of that rotor, and she's not looking too good. Gonna have to get that resurfaced. I'll have the front just touched up because I had to beat the ever-living crap out of this thing to get it off. But sometimes you'll have that when you're working on rusty stuff. But got it, so yeah. Moving on. Onto the wheel hub itself. Caliper bracket, brake caliper brackets off. It looks like I've got two more studs on the back side of the hub here. I already got the two on the other side there. And then it's a matter of disconnecting all of this stuff. Looks like there's a 10 millimeter located right here, keeping the sensor for the wheel bearing. That's your sensor for your ABS. Gotta disconnect that, pull these out, and there's should be a quick connect plug right there. Disconnect that, and we'll get the hub cracker and crack this thing open like an egg, hopefully. But in the meantime, you guys are going to go on time lapse. All right, well, back at it. All right, well, got the bolts on the backside loose. So now we got the hub cracker on. This is a new to me kind of tool. Gonna give her a rip and see what happens. Hopefully good things. Okay, so here we are. We are back, Jack. I went to the Leprechaun shop and got their slide hammer hub puller, which is this, which you can put in. You're supposed to be able to put that on the lug studs and just crank this in and it pushes it out. But this front wheel drive hub puller that they gave me at the Leprechaun shop does not fit the bolt pattern for this van. Not even close. I was going to run to town, back to town, and see if they had a different one that was a little bigger, but I ended up just putting the hub cracker back on it, and that actually did the job. Between that and a couple of pry bars and a little bit of persistence and patience. Boy, that was loud for me. I can't imagine what it was like for you. Sorry. Anywho, the reason why these things are so hard to get out is because there's zero tolerance here. You can't have any slop or anything in these things. They have to be tight. And the other thing is too, I guess I'll bring this part up here to show you because I don't want to take the camera off the tripod. I'm lazy. If you look at that right there, see how rusty that is? Where all the splines go? So she was stuck on there pretty good. I had to put the nut back on the end of the CV shaft. Spun it on enough so I didn't damage the head of the nut or the threads, and banged on it a couple times with my little 2-pound hammer and knocked that back, and then it came free actually pretty easy. Much easier than I thought it was going to after the initial go around with it. So anyway, here we are on to the new part. And oh, one quick thing I want to show you. That hub assembly came out in 2 pieces, and it's not supposed to do that. So we definitely know, other than the horrible god-awful noise it was making, that it's definitely bad. I mean, you can see, and this is supposed to be attached to that. That's not supposed to come apart like that. So that's where all the god-awful grinding and horrible noises were coming from. So we will get this new wheel bearing in, and we will take care of that problem. Back these studs out a little bit before we get the new one in, because those, unless you knock back the CV shaft, you can't get those bolts out. So the CV shaft is knocked back, and I can take them out, but I don't really need to, so I'm not gonna. Like I said, I'm lazy. So anyway, I'm gonna put a little bit of love on there, so we don't go back in as hard as we came out. Clean this up a little bit. Looks like that's gonna have to be cleaned a lot. Actually, it's some stuff got in there. But it made a nice tight seal. Yeah, so moving on, I'm going to lube that up, and I noticed something here right off the bat that, where did it go now? Okay, so this part is supposed to go up there according to this, but if you look at the old one, it's got a whole different style clip to it. And I see that actually does come off of there. There we go. So that'll get put back on the spindle here. When I saw the new one, I assumed that it was the same, but it's not. So you'll have that. As long as the plugs are the same and the bolts are all the same, everything's same. Other than that, really don't care. It's just a different style kind of bracket. No big deal. We'll just pop this bracket off of there. Alright, we're going to lube her up, get the new one slid on. And after that, we're going to get the brakes done. I'm not going to bore you guys with all that stuff because it's pretty basic, simple stuff. And I already showed you the disassembly. Reassembly is just the reverse. and I've already done a video with brakes before, and there's many other people out there that can actually do it a lot better than me, explain it a lot better than me, and I'm kind of a hack. But no, I am going to make sure that it is done correctly, and it'll be safe for my brother and his wife and my nieces and nephew. So anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like I said, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you like what you see. Hopefully be doing some more features with some more hot rods here soon. It is that time of year. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Keep her between the ditches.